Cody Garbrandt of old, you hit him hard, the game plan is just getting ripped up and the bombs are flying.
He doesn't care what Mark Henry's telling him from the corner or anybody, Uriah Faber, all these legends.
Mute button on the corner. What's up, Barn Hill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, over 183 significant strikes landed by Rob Font last night. I believe that is the second most in Bantamweight history. Spectacular performance. Stayed behind his jab. The fundamentals look good. I mean, what more can you say about Rob Font? This guy's a real threat at 135.
Yeah, Rob Font might be the best boxer in the UFC. I feel like he had to get that one back for Calvin Kattar after what Max Holloway did to his teammate. And there's definitely some sort of competition, some friendly rivalry between Hawaii and Boston for who has the best boxers. But Rob Font definitely put on a clinic last night.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if he's got better boxing than Max Holloway, but he did say, and I'll give him this. He only asked for a little bit. He said, give me the credit of having the best jab in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I think I might be able to go along with that. I mean, the guy's got tremendous reach for 135, first of all. Like, I can't remember the exact tail of the tape numbers, but I think he had like a 5.5 to 6 inch reach advantage over Cody Garbrandt, which is just staggering. People of that height don't typically have reaches over 70 inches, but Rob Font is one of the rare exceptions. But more so than just the God-given reach that he had, the way he utilized the jab was beautiful. It was crisp. It was well-timed. He didn't do it in the same cadence throughout the fight. A lot of guys who have good jabs will throw it kind of with the same cadence and the same timing, and really high-level people like Garbrandt can pick up on that as the fight goes on and start to slip it and return and stuff. Font kept him guessing. He kept the timing. He kept the way he threw it, the feinting and all of that was new and fresh throughout the fight, and he was even doing things in the fifth round that he wasn't doing in the first and second.
Yeah, composure was the name of the game for both fighters in the main event. Rob Font stayed behind his jab, stayed composed, stuck to a game plan, and it worked out for him. And you also have to give credit to Cody because he did something unlike Cody has ever done. He stayed composed in a firefight. And, you know, when Cody gets tagged a couple times, usually he throws caution to the wind and starts just trading with you. And he's pretty good at enticing people to get into a firefight with him, but we found out that's dangerous. You don't want to get just throwing hands with Cody Garbrandt because he can knock you out probably a little bit easier than almost anybody can knock him out. So it's a tough thing for Rob Font in a big main event situation, first 5-round fight in the UFC, and he has to stay composed. He has to beat the former champ, and he did exactly what he had to do. And I do credit his jab a lot to setting all those big power shots up. You know, we were just talking last week or the week before about Charles Oliveira's hook and how he didn't overextend. He didn't throw it way beyond his target line and anything like that. And it just seems like Rob Font was doing the same thing. He was never too overextended. His feet moved in and out with him as he was striking. He looked really crisp, and he would cut off the cage, not quite as much as I would have liked to have seen him do, because I feel like he probably could have gotten a finish if he would have done a couple of different things. One, attack those lower kicks, the legs, the thighs of Cody Garbrandt a little bit more, and two, cut off the cage a little bit more when he did stun Cody, because he had stunned him a couple times, and I thought, okay, if he can just, you know, play a little bit more aggressive style, not even like come in and just throw caution to the side and start throwing bombs, but just big feints. You know, we always talk about how good Terrence Crawford is with attacking when he smells blood in the water, attacking like a shark.
Best finisher in the game.
Best finisher in the game, and a lot of it has to do with theatricals. He does it so well that when the ref sees him throwing these big shots, he has no other option but to step in and stop and save a fighter. I feel like he could have done that against Cody, but make no mistake about it, he should be very proud, and I was very impressed with the 5-round decision that he got over Cody.
Yeah, I mean, very impressed on a lot of fronts. The fundamentals. You know, we talk about guys who get in these big main event situations and guys who get into title situations where they almost feel, I think Masvidal was the most recent example of that. Yeah. He almost felt the need to showboat a little bit, like you talked all this trash, and not necessarily saying that there was a lot of trash talk in the build up to Cody Font, but a lot of times these guys in these main event situations feel like they have to showboat and rope-a-dope and, you know, put their hands down and all that. Rob Font stuck to the fundamentals. Yep. His chin was down, his hands were up. one thing we know about a fighter who fights with his chin up and his hands down, even as entertaining as Yuri Prochazka just was, as entertaining as Anderson Silva was up until Chris Weidman cracked him. The day, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yep. But Font negated that beautifully by the chin down, hands up, beautiful feinting, getting up off of his back when Cody did take him down, controlling the pace, dictating the pace, not getting overwhelmed by the moment. I can't say enough good things about Font. But if we're going to talk about how good Font is and all of the great things he did in that fight, we got to give some shine to Cody too, right? I mean, the guy did change his game plan a little bit. He looked a little bit more mature in there. He was, usually when Cody Garbrandt of old, you hit him hard, the game plan is just getting ripped up and the bombs are flying.
He doesn't care what Mark Henry's telling him from the corner or anybody, Uriah Faber, all these legends.
Mute button on the corner, and it's just, I see red. You hear the drunk guy say, after a few tequila shots, I just see red. Well, that's probably not true, but in Cody's case, it is true. Yeah. And so Cody, and usually he had those moments in the past that cost him big time against TJ Dillashaw. He even said as much. I fought with way too much emotion in those two fights. Pedro Munoz, a fight that he was winning, got caught up in the moment, got caught up in a firefight. So when Rob Font stunned him, he didn't feel an immediate need to answer back. He did circle out. Yeah. He did look for takedowns when he got hurt, and he did get some takedowns. So I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't at least give some credit to the evolution of Cody's game. He just happened to come up against a tougher guy, a guy who's just a little bit crisper, a little bit sharper in Rob Font. But he did go back to the Cody of old in that 5th round trying to swing for the fences because, let's face it, no judge was giving him that fight, and he knew that. So, at least we did get to see a little bit of the old Cody in the last 2 rounds there. Yeah,
and he was pushing the pace, and it was an exciting 5th round. We have to give credit where credit's due. Cody, we had a couple questions going in surrounding Cody during this fight week. Would he stay composed if he did start to get hit? And where was his chin? And I think, one of those you can work on. The other one is just kind of a time thing. And he remained composed, even when you could tell he was noticeably frustrated with his performance, with the way he couldn't do the offensive mechanics that he was hoping he could do. When Rob Font was just not there for him to hit, you could tell it was frustrating him, but he wasn't letting it get to him to the point where it was going to compromise him and he was going to get finished with it. And then the chin, everybody's going, well, Cody doesn't have a chin. Cody, no chin. That's what they were calling him, right? Well, he took a shin to the chin, literally one of the hardest kicks that we've seen down there in a while, and it was literally the top third of the shin. So that's a pretty tough spot. It's almost like taking a knee to the chin. He took it and kept moving forward. There was a couple times where he kind of wobbled a little bit, but I think it's safe to say that Cody Garbrandt is still okay with absorbing shots. I don't think he's taken too many to where he's just this no chin guy and he's going to start getting knocked out every time he steps in the cage. I don't think that's the case at all. And then the composure, if he can maintain that composure that he had last night in the fights in the future, he will continue to win or get back to his winning ways. He's just got to not get so frustrated was something that we could visibly see on him, but instead of getting down on himself and not turning into the firefighter that he likes to turn into, he just has to throw away rounds when he knows he's lost them and move forward with his game plan. All right, I might have lost that one. I might be a little frustrated because I'm not scoring on this combination, but guess what? I'm going to go again. I'm going to try to outsmart my opponent and score on the next one. You have to constantly erase your slate in fighting. You can't let lingering thoughts and missed combinations haunt you during the fight, or else you'll never start to string any offense together. And I think that was part of what was kind of haunting him last night in the octagon.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And I think I have 2 concerns for Cody going forward because he's still only 29. He's a former champion. He's a marketable guy. First concern being he looked exhausted in there last night.
True.
And I don't know if that's a lack of proper conditioning or if this is a lingering effect. He did have it was in the press. A lot of guys were talking about it, a pretty bad case of COVID-19.
Yeah.
He had, pneumonia, shortness of breath, It was a long recovery process.
Had to pull out of that championship fight.
Right, against Davison. Couldn't make the weight. His lungs weren't there. So the question is, one is, are his lungs going to be able to get back to where they were, to where he can fight 5-round fights in main event type of situations? And then the second being, we got to be a bit realistic here. He's 1-4 in his last 5.
Yeah.
There's a lot of up-and-comers at 135. People like Rob Font, who looked spectacular last night.
Yeah.
Sean O'Malley, people like that. Because Cody's a big name and has a not-so-great record in the last couple of years, do we start to see the UFC book Cody against guys that they're trying to see get a marquee win?
Yeah, I think we might actually see that. And one thing that stuck out to me as a sort of a random thing, but it's something that a lot of people like myself noticed, was that Rob Font's the number 3 guy in the world. I don't think anybody on the planet, maybe not even Rob Font, knew that he was the number 3 bantamweight in the world. It blew me away to read that. I go, wait a second, Rob Font? I thought there was TJ Dillashaw. I thought there was Corey Sandhagen. There was Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan, Cody. I could have named 10 more bantamweights that I thought were ranked higher than Rob Font. Turns out I was wrong. That clearly means the rankings don't matter quite as much. But when you see Cody Garbrandt is still in the top 5, he's number 4 at 1-4 in his last 5 fights. It makes you really start to take those rankings and with a grain of salt. Yeah. I don't think that they mean all that much, and I honestly can't see how you can keep somebody that's 1-4 in their last 5 fights, albeit versus very good opposition.
Many of those championship fights, but still. Yeah.
But how can they be in the top 10? I think there's 10 fighters that deserve to be ranked higher than Cody Garbrandt in the bantamweight division. I think he'll probably slip further down to about the 7th or 8th ranked fighter in that division, but and that'll be fair. But there will be other fighters that I see the UFC building off of Cody because, let's just face it, if Cody can't string together a couple of wins in a row anymore, then you have to start looking at this as a business owner, a business standpoint, and how are we going to make a return on our investment? Well, we're not going to make it off this guy, but we can probably put some fighters in like Sean O'Malley. I sense, my spidey senses are tingling that we're going to see Sean O'Malley versus Cody Garbrandt very soon. Likely less than 12 months from today, we'll see those two locked in the octagon together. And that's just because they've spent a lot of money on Cody, and they need to get a return on their investment. And sometimes that doesn't mean they invest in the fighter. That means invest in his opponents.
If they didn't invest in Ben Askren, we would have never had the Street Jesus Jorge Masvidal.
That's right. That's crazy.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. What did you think of Font's performance over Garbrandt last night? Was it good enough to get him a title shot after this whole thing shakes out with Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan? Let us know in the comments. We always love hearing from you guys there. And please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out tremendously with the algorithm. And we see you guys. You're helping us grow, and we appreciate it so much. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next video.
Peace.